3, 2, 1. Welcome to the Wannabe Artist Podcast.
That was rubbish. I literally saw an Instagram reel of a guy doing a perfect impression of that. So you, in comparison, is just you do not even compare.
Bro, I tried my best.
All right.
My name is Justin. I am one of your hosts.
And I'm Josh. I'm your other host.
I didn't practice that accent.
You never practice these intros enough. Like you always mess them up, or you just do them badly.
Bro, that's why it makes it so much better.
Okay.
And when it's just off the top of your head.
All right. Can we like make this now that we're past like episode 10? Like I feel like we're like in a new era.
Yeah.
So can we like make it a thing to like have like funny intros now? Like consistent.
I was trying to get you to do something special for our very special
I had
long
nothing
episode.
you literally told me that like 3 minutes before we started recording. Like I had nothing prepared.
You're not
like,
creative enough.
Dude, okay. Well now though, okay, we'll set it now. Like we'll have funny intros every single episode.
Okay. Next episode, it's your turn then.
Okay. We'll alternate to make it fair.
How do you think last episode went?
It went okay. I feel like I did a lot of rambling.
Uh-huh.
Like I felt very like self-conscious after. I was like, damn, I low-key like went on and on without saying a lot sometimes. But I mean, I guess for the most part it went pretty well. We covered a lot.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I'd always prefer more rambling and yapping than nothing at all, honestly.
True. I also like got sick after we recorded that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think all that talking like it like did something to my throat and I was just like not able to speak and it just led to me like getting sick. So that was nice. But
That's funny.
you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah,
make
I
the
mean,
podcast
talking for 3+ hours straight should do a lot to your vocal cord.
Yeah.
And
Hopefully this episode will not be 3 hours.
we promise it's not going to be.
Yeah.
Before we get into like our larger discussions planned today, I guess we wanted to talk about a few things that we've been watching recently.
Oh yeah.
Originally, I was like, we should talk about Sonic 3 for an episode, but then I watched it and I was like,
There's
there's
episode's
nothing to
worth of
discuss.
content,
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Sonic 3 was kind of just like a bit of a letdown for me because I really enjoyed Sonic 2. I think that was a very unexpected masterpiece, to say the least.
Yeah. Can you explain your weird obsession, fascination with Sonic movies?
I mean, okay, so I remember like a few years ago, whenever Sonic 2 was going to be coming out, Justin was like, you want to see this? I was like, sure, why not? Because, you know, I'm always down to see a movie at a theater, no matter what it is. And he showed me Sonic 1 at first, just to like sort of introduce me to the franchise because I don't know anything about Sonic. I hadn't known anything about Sonic beforehand, even though it's like a very iconic piece of pop culture. I didn't know anything. So he showed me the first movie. I thought it was okay. It was kind of just a very like standard like kids movie, action adventure kind of thing. Way too many humans in it, which was very annoying. And that still is a problem in this franchise. But we go to see Sonic 2, and I think my eyes were just blessed with some of the best action scenes I'd seen in a kids movie. Like I got chills down my spine more and more as the movie went on. Like we had the Sonic and what's his name? The red one?
Knuckles?
Sonic
The
and
red one.
The Sonic and Knuckles fight. And then we had that whole final fight with like giant robot, if I am remembering correctly. And yeah, I just really liked that movie. I thought it was a banger. Left a huge impression on me. I was thinking about that movie for like a month straight afterwards.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think these are definitely better than most kids movies, at least the first two, and better than most video game adaptations, which isn't saying much, but
I mean,
it's cool that we have them.
I'm glad like the Sonic movies are like the ones that are doing well, you know? Like I feel like Sonic has a lot of potential to be cool. I feel like that potential was like what am I trying to say? Sort of like expanded upon in the second movie. Like I saw that potential like realized on the screen. So yeah, that's Sonic 2 movie I really liked.
This third one
was, I mean, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a decent movie. I definitely think the first two acts are significantly less entertaining than the final act, which is an issue for a movie we're going to be talking about in a bit
Mm,
as well. But I don't know. I still thought it was pretty decent. I thought it was better than the first one, at
okay.
least.
I was definitely more entertained through certain moments in the third one
Mm-hmm.
than I was in the first one, but I don't know. I said this to you. I don't know why this one feels like so much more like kiddie and watered down compared to the other two. Like it
Yeah.
feels like it was missing that kind of edge, which is weird because it's trying to go for a darker tone
Uh-huh.
with the
The story.
the story and of course the Keanu Reeves character Shadow.
I,
So it's weird to me.
maybe they just want to like balance it out or something. Still keep it like engaging for like the little kids. But I don't know. I feel like what it felt like to me was that the movie was kind of rushed out.
Yeah.
And so they kind of like harped on like things that are like that didn't need to be in the movie. Like that like dance scene with like Eggman and his grandpa. And
Yeah.
like I feel like there are a lot of moments like that where it's kind of just like they're just prolonging a joke and it feels like it's just to like extend the runtime
Yeah.
instead of being funny.
No, literally everything is just like filler to get to the cool hedgehog scenes and the
Yeah.
cool action and Sonic lore.
And I do think the action is still pretty good in this movie. I think the movie still looks really good when it's hedgehogs fighting. But I don't know. I feel like there's something about it that didn't really match the second movie. Like I feel like it kind of has like the Dragon Ball Z problem where like it's the scale is like too big where there's not a lot of impact anymore because like Shadow, like he feels like so OP, like how he can like teleport and stuff. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel grounded enough to have like an impact, which I mean maybe is something they couldn't really control due to the nature of his like power and everything. But like I don't know, to me the action while still looking good didn't feel as good as the second one.
No, I agree. I guess Keanu Reeves, he like fits this role, but you know, he's just doing his typical Keanu Reeves smug,
Yeah. I mean, he
cool
fits
guy.
the role and concept. I
Yeah.
feel like in execution, he's kind of like, he's fine. Like, he just does the bare minimum, I guess.
Yeah.
Pulls
I
you
know.
out a little bit, but like, it's whatever.
Something about this time around, as much as I love Jim Carrey, like he's one of my favorite actors,
Mhm.
it was just overdoing it at this point. Like it's always been kind of like the Jim Carrey showcase for these two movies. Like he steals
Uh-huh.
the first two movies, but something about double Jim Carrey this time.
I think it's just too much of a good thing, to
Yeah.
be honest. And I feel like their dynamic was like not, it was so like generic, like kids' humor.
Yeah.
Like the way they just like, the two Jim Carreys would bounce off each other. And it was like,
Yeah.
kind of hard to watch. Like I
Mm,
feel like that's my Jim Carrey was my least favorite part of this movie.
interesting.
Surprisingly,
Mine was just honestly the Sonic humor. It's always been annoying,
but I
but
feel
there's
like
something about this movie.
the Sonic humor like infected Jim Carrey's character. Like I could feel that energy in him too. But I mean, that's not to say that Sonic wasn't dropping some straight stinkers.
Yeah,
of jokes.
I got one I want to quote.
I think I know what it is.
Konnichiwa.
Dude, that's the only time I laughed in this movie. But it's just because of how bad that joke was.
Yeah.
But
And it's like weird to be saying all this and like have this kind of expectation because people will be like, why are you expecting so much out of a kids movie?
bro, kids movies can be good.
Exactly. There's like that doesn't mean it has to be insufferable.
Bro, I don't understand how Pixar can go on like this 10-year run or however long of like making banger after banger and people are still like their expectations are still like this low for kids movies.
It's
Like,
pretty ridiculous.
Yeah.
We shouldn't linger too long on this one.
Yeah.
This is just like some brief thoughts we had on Sonic 3.
Mm-hmm.
You want to give like quick ratings?
Yeah, a little disappointing. I still give it like a 6 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the third act was pretty good.
It's a little harsh, I guess, but I don't know. I was left not feeling much, and the only scenes that had any impact on me were the just flashy scenes that activated my monkey brain,
Yeah.
and so I gave it a 3 out of 10.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right. We disagree, but that's cool.
One of us is right, one of us is wrong.
Okay, let's not get too ahead of ourselves.
Do we want to
Next,
mention
I do want to mention
the Squid Games?
Squid Game 2. I don't know why this show's so funny. Like I was just laughing at like the stupidest things when I was watching this show. Like there's something about this show that I can't take seriously anymore.
I totally agree. It's such a meme and
Yeah.
just its place in pop culture now.
It,
It sits really funny to me.
I don't know why Squid Game became like a YouTube Shorts like brain rot thing.
Oh yeah.
Like all like the kids content has like Squid Game in it, even though the show is like not for kids at all. But yeah, Squid Game 2. What can we say? It was a sequel to one of the biggest shows on Netflix.
That sounds like you love it.
No, I mean it was good. It was like it was better than I expected. I don't know why I was expecting like a complete shit show because I guess the show got so big, it sort of stopped being a piece of media. It
Mhm.
became like a piece of culture. And when that happens, it's hard to view these things as like something that can be competently executed.
Yeah, this
But
is Netflix's biggest property.
yeah. But I feel like the writers did a fair job at handling the second season because there were a lot of things that they set up at the end of the first season where they kind of just like kicked themselves in the foot.
Yeah.
And it's like it's hard to know where to go from that. I feel like they executed the second season in a way where they sort of pleased everyone the best they could from what they had.
I agree to an extent. Yeah, I think they salvaged what they had left with season 1
Yeah.
because I think it really does fall apart in the last like 3 episodes or
Oh,
so.
yeah,
It
for
becomes
sure.
so generic and just like generic but also like out of left field, like
Mhm.
pulling things narratively that I'm just like, why would you choose to do that or set it up that way?
And dude, I rewatched like the Gambu episode
Yeah.
from season 1. That is a damn good episode of TV.
Mhm.
Like just the way that everything unfolds, like that is like, and I think I forgot that the people that are writing this season also wrote that episode because you can still see hints of pretty decent character writing
Mhm.
in this second season that we saw in season 1.
Yeah. Decent enough, but not enough to get me to care about any of the new characters in season 2.
And one thing I do want to mention is that it has the same problem of season 1 where we have the A plot that's pretty engaging that you want to see, and then you have this horrendous B plot
Yeah.
that just meanders and doesn't go anywhere. And then it's especially bad in this because this is sort of like doing the Across the Spider-Verse thing where it's like a part 1. It's like a creator thing,
Yeah.
which is my biggest pet peeve in all of media. And that just makes this B plot even worse because it doesn't even have a resolution. Like it kind of the A plot has like a sort of resolution,
Mhm.
obviously setting up a season 3, but they never go back to the B plot and give that any kind of resolution. So it's just like, why did we waste all that time? And
Yeah, the B plot, it's again with the detective character. And I feel like he's just like sidelined so hard, even harder this season.
dude, I feel like this guy is just so useless. Like
Yeah.
in season 1, he's spending the whole time like finding information that we, the audience, already know.
Yeah.
And he just gets shot and doesn't do anything. He couldn't even get the evidence back to the people. And then now he's like on a boat
Mhm.
and they lose Gi-hoon and they can't find him. And it's just like, what are you doing, bro? You're actually like the worst detective I've ever seen. But I can tell that they're gonna wrap it around some way in season 3. So
That's the hope.
we'll see.
Because I was telling Joshua, I think they set up really interesting storylines this season,
Mhm.
and there was potential to take it into a really cool route, but I just feel like they took shortcuts and like went really mundane ways. And I know I'm sounding really vague right now because I don't really want to spoil,
Mhm.
but just in terms of where they leave off the main character, I feel like there was so much more that could have been done.
Yeah, it kind of feels like they set him up really well. Like you
Mhm.
can see how different he is from season 1,
Yeah.
but then they kind of just leave him at that. He doesn't
Yeah.
really develop any further. Then he just gets off-screen development, and then that's it. Basically, he's now just a stoic, like sort of badass main character now.
Yeah. Typical trajectory. I mean the games, like the main reason you probably watch, they're still fun, engaging.
Yeah, I really liked the six-legged race. I feel like that
Yeah.
one is getting a lot of like hate.
Really?
I've seen a lot of people
think
say
that
it's
was really
their
cool.
least favorite one, but that was my favorite one. I thought that was like the only sorry. That was the only game where I felt the same amount of like intensity that I did like from the games in season 1.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
There's a few more gimmicks this time around with the games that is it really a spoiler?
No.
Yeah. So there's this gimmick where after each round this time, they'll go through a voting system to cancel the game or terminate the game or not. And I thought that dragged the pacing so much this season.
Yeah, I kind of liked it at first.
Yeah.
Because it kind of asked the question. We have Gi-hun, who's very heroic and very like idealistic in his quest to sort of take down the games.
Mhm.
But then he's sort of realizing that while there are people that deserve to be saved, there's also people that don't want to be saved
Mhm.
and do those. And it's sort of asking the question of, do those people deserve to be saved as well? I thought that was interesting, but it doesn't really explore that question past asking it.
Yeah.
And it kind of just rehashes the same thing over and over. And with these like really long, like dragged out scenes of each character clicking yes or no to
Oh my
continue
God,
the
yeah.
games.
Yeah,
Which
this
happens
is
like 3 times.
This is like one of the major examples for me where very interesting setup and then just the most mundane, lame execution.
Yeah. But I mean, overall, it's still an entertaining show. I had a decent time watching it. Like, I wasn't mad that I spent 7 hours watching this whole season.
I was always intrigued too, I'd agree.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I feel like depending on how season 3 is, this is one of those scenarios
Mhm.
is going to affect how I retrospectively
True.
look at season 2.
Yeah, because it's a lot of setup here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Setup season, unfortunately.
But I don't think we're gonna have to wait long for season 3 because I think it's coming out early this year.
Apparently the
Yeah.
release date got leaked and it's in June.
Oh, June?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a while. Okay, well, until then, we'll see.
Yeah. Ratings for season 2?
I give this like a 6 out of 10. It's
Mhm.
decent.
I'd give it a 5 for now. It could move up or go lower
Yeah.
depending on season 3's turnout.
I mean, looking at this show's track record, they're not very good at endings, but
they're not.
we'll see. If they stick the landing, I would love that.
We'll see.
I always want something to turn out to be good in the end.
One would hope.
Yes.
One can always dream of a perfect Squid Game ending.
Dude, I think about it every night. When I think of that red hair, I get so angry. Like I turn red like the hair.
I was just thinking of all the memes right now for Squid Game.
I think
it's
that's
making
what's
me
making
giggle.
it even funnier.
Yeah.
Like the show was funny when I watched it, and then all the memes after just make it funnier. This is such an easily memeable show.
Yeah. Do you want to quote the English dub that we were making fun
I've
of?
played these games before. That was my vocal stim for like a week. I just could not stop saying that when I was playing Valorant.
My vocal stem is just pew 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 pew.
This show also has a very funny soundtrack.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude. The remix of Fly Me to the Moon during Red Light, Green Light this season. Oh, I'm sorry to spoil it, but dude, that goes hard, bro.
Oh no, spoiler.
That shit was, dude, that is a spoiler, bro. When that came out, I was like, holy shit, this is tough. That shit was tough.
Oh, okay. One last thing before we move on. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
The reuse of Red Light, Green Light did not work for me at all.
Really?
Yeah. It's just like, that was my fear going in, that they were just going to repeat games.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I think it's just the impact is not as great when you've seen it before.
Yeah. I mean, I was okay on it. I feel like it's such a good game to sort of introduce the cast and to really quickly show like who these people are. So I think that's why they reused it, because it's a pretty easy way to sort of exposition dump without having to waste too much time. But I don't know. I mean, I guess for me, I was kind of indifferent on it. Like, it's still fun to see a lot of people die. And a lot of people die in that game.
It is fun to see people die.
Yeah.
In fiction.
Yes.
Also, Lee Byung-hun being bumped up this season, he's a great addition.
Oh yeah, for sure. He is. His character is much more expanded upon, which is good because he's a great actor.
He's a goat in Korean cinema. All right, let's move on. Do you want to introduce our first major discussion for today?
Yes.
Music boy.
We're going to be talking about the musical film Wicked. So here we have Wicked, or what I like to call adaptation hell, because this is a movie based on a musical, based on a book, based on a movie that's based on a book, which is very disgusting to hear.
I didn't even think about it that way. The layers of adaptation.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Um, I mean, I don't even know where to start with this. This is a long ass movie. I'll say that first. I think there was a moment in the middle of the movie where I was like, damn, like we still have like an hour to go, and this is already feeling like I already had my fill. But like Sonic 3, I feel like this movie definitely picked up in the third act
Mhm.
for me. And that's where I really sort of saw like this is like maybe this is a story worth telling. But that's also where my main problem with this movie lies, is that I feel like we're watching an extended version of the least interesting part of this story.
I agree with you to an extent about how the final act kind of wraps up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there's no need to introduce this movie. It's everywhere. You can't avoid it. This is like defined 2024 culture
Yeah, like the end of
currently.
2024.
And I think just baseline to sum up my basic thoughts is just this is a movie not made for me at all.
Because you're not a musical guy
No,
at all. Come on, bro.
I'm sorry.
This man hates Hamilton. This man hates, I don't know,
Mean Girls.
Mean Girls. Okay, well that's a pretty shit
Valid.
musical.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's valid. Dude, I just think I came into this movie with very wonky expectations
Mhm.
because I feel like the PR campaign for this movie was kind of a nightmare. We had, Cynthia Erivo, who plays Elphaba,
Oh,
having
yeah.
a meltdown over a fan poster a fan poster that was made to match the original Broadway poster. She had a meltdown over that, and I feel like that's very in character for her character in this movie. I think Elphaba would also have a meltdown over that. And then we also have freaking Ethan Slater, Mr. SpongeBob himself,
Oh my god, yeah.
who left his wife for Ariana Grande after meeting her on this set, which is also very
Sussy.
in character because his character would also leave his his girl for
In an
Ariana Grande's
instant.
character. And yeah, I don't know. I just feel like this movie felt like it was just dead on arrival because of all that stuff.
Yeah.
All that baggage is carrying with it. But then when it came out, surprisingly, it was pretty well received by the general public.
Unanimous praise.
Yeah. So that kind of changed my view on this movie. So I went in half expecting an overrated piece of trash and half expecting to have my mind blown just based off what everyone was saying.
Yeah. I feel like just the way it was marketed and everything surrounding the movie before it didn't set it up well. And I'll just be honest, that trailer was insufferable to
Oh
me.
yeah, dude.
And I could not stand every single piece of advertisement
Yeah.
going in.
I feel like these big blockbuster movies always have the worst trailers though. So you really have to see it to really get a good view of it. But most of the time, like, it is like the trailer. And I feel like this movie, it's sort of, it felt better watching it than the trailer, obviously, but I could still feel that energy of, I don't know what to call it, that energy of annoyingness kind of radiating off of just everything.
I totally agree. And I promise everyone that I was not going into this movie wanting to despise it
Mm-hmm.
and hate my experience. But
Same with me.
I don't know. It's just I went into this movie not as someone who's familiar with the musical, the Broadway musical, and I was just viewing it as its own contained story.
Mm-hmm.
And on that kind of level, I just think a Wizard of Oz prequel is just such a lame idea to me.
Yeah.
And I don't think this story or universe needed that kind of expansion in any way.
I think especially because this leg of the story is it's so generic. Like we have this like chosen one outcast kind of story with Elphaba, but it's like it plays on the most like generic ways possible. And then we have like the wise teacher that like sees the potential in her and trains her. And then we have like the sort of like opposite of this outcast, the really popular girl who kind of gets everything she wants and is like a bitch, but is also like her psychic. I don't know. I just felt like it played out so generically. It wasn't until like maybe like the last 20 or so minutes where the story actually tried doing something that was interesting.
Mhm.
But I feel like by that point, like I'd already sat through like 2 hours of stuff that I wasn't necessarily offended by, but just stuff I was very indifferent to.
Yeah, too little, too late. And Joshua mentioned the runtime. I think ultimately that's my like biggest gripe with the movie. A 2 hour, 40-minute runtime
For
with
half the story.
Yeah, for half the story. And with this part of the story containing so much just fluff to me,
Yeah.
where they're literally just sitting around Shiz University
Yeah,
and just doing basically nothing, and you get the most generic character building for Elphaba.
and I really think I don't think this would be an issue if they had just stuck to the original runtime of the Broadway musical. I don't see a point in stretching out half the story to almost 3 hours long. It just feels like overindulgent at times. And
Yeah, Joshua, he blew my mind telling me that this part of the story in the film adaptation is longer than the Broadway
no,
musical.
it's the same
Oh,
length.
it's the same
That's
length.
the whole thing.
Yeah, that's ridiculous to me.
And obviously like musicals, they run at sort of like a breakneck pace. That's just the nature of like a theater performance. But I don't know, like I don't know what happens in the second half. Also not familiar with the original musical, but like it doesn't really feel like a story that's building up to be needing 5 whole hours of movie to
Absolutely
tell.
not.
But yeah, I still think there were things that I enjoyed in these 2 hours. I definitely think that Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande's vocals are incredible. Like they're just it's really what's carrying the musical numbers, because like the story at this point is so generic that having like having pretty decent numbers sort of like does a good job at distracting you a little bit and keeping you engaged.
Yeah. If there's anything I can give credit to, it's just the production itself, musically and just in terms of sets and visuals.
Yeah.
I think it looks very stunning, and the performers came and they performed
Yeah.
very well.
And I also really like how well the musical numbers were blended in with the movie moments,
Mhm.
because I feel like a lot of musical movie adaptations really struggle with that. I mean, like Mean Girls, for example.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like it's one of the worst examples of how not to blend songs with a movie. But I feel like in this movie, it was all very seamless and kind of clever at times, like to where like you have a character saying their lines and then suddenly they sort of say
Like ease into it.
they say a line in a more melodic way,
Yeah.
and it kind of eases you into the song. And I feel like this world is like so fantastical that like when you see people dancing and like singing, it's not really taking you out because it kind of fits with everything going on.
No, for sure. This is a rare occurrence to me, experiencing a musical and like dreading all the regular dialogue scenes and like yearning for the musical sequences.
Mm,
And I feel like usually my experience is the exact opposite,
really?
like in a Mean Girls,
Mm.
even though all of it's insufferable in Mean Girls.
It's just like insufferable and then more insufferable.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
in terms of Wicked, I cannot stand the energy and the way dialogue is written in very conversational scenes.
Yeah, and I feel like you see it the most in Bone Yang's character.
I was gonna bring him up.
And
Yeah.
I don't even know the other girl's name, but these are Glinda's friends. They just feel like the most Gen Z-ified like characters to ever be put in like a movie.
Yeah.
Like I feel like with a fantasy story, you need to not feel like you're in the real world. But then when these characters open their mouths, I feel like I'm hearing some guy on TikTok talk about some bullshit.
No, for real. It's not even I've tried to think about this. It's not even the fact that he's like prominent on SNL.
No.
But it has that kind of like energy.
It's the script.
Yeah.
And also the performance. It's not the actor.
And I feel like it just the script and what they're working with is infecting everything else.
Because we have like Ariana Grande here, and that's not taking me out at all because she's putting on a performance. She's being an actual character,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah,
I still didn't enjoy her.
really,
Her like ditzy kind of like, oh, I'm such a girl who gets everything I want. I'm such a queen. Like it just really annoyed me. I'm sorry.
I was I was very indifferent to it. I didn't think it was very funny, but I also wasn't. I wasn't really rolling like it. It felt like a little bit self-aware of how like sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Stereotypical it was.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Also, this is like I feel like she did a good job in this role because I feel like this is kind of her. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
kind of like how I view Ariana Grande. So it just felt like right for her to play this kind of character.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know who she is as a person, but that's just like what I view her as.
Yeah. I was not entertained by
Hmm.
pretty much like anything in this movie. I sat with just like a straight face, and that was most of my experience.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
I agree. I was not entertained until we got to the Wizard of Oz place, and then the final
Emerald
number.
City.
Yeah, Emerald City, and then the final number, Defying Gravity, played, and obviously, like everyone's been hyping up like all the vocal stuff that Cynthia Erivo does and the high note at the end.
Yep.
But I'm gonna be honest, bro, it delivered. Like I thought that was a pretty good musical number,
Mhm.
and I guess the best way to end the slog fest that this movie kind of was because I don't know, bro. Like that was really good to me. But I'm interested to hear like what you thought of that final number.
No, I think it for how like unengaged I was through this entire narrative, it somehow still I still felt a little bit of something.
Mm-hmm.
And like it just honestly it made me question why we didn't just start around this part of the story instead of
Yeah,
slogging around for that long at the university.
or why we didn't get this earlier
Exactly.
because I feel like even the musical numbers beforehand were so much more. They felt just by the numbers, but I feel like this part of the story and this number in particular, it felt like it was kind of breaking free from being just like a story that's horrendously generic and not worth telling. And I don't know, it just makes me wonder how someone can call this like a perfect movie when one part of it is just so much better than everything else.
Yeah.
Like I feel like most people are only looking at that one part of this movie, but not looking at it as a whole experience.
I've noticed that a lot of the people who praise it, and not to judge anyone, but it's coming from their attachment to the Broadway musical.
Yeah. And I'm sure that's because this is probably one of the better adaptations of a Broadway musical that we've gotten in movie form.
Yeah.
Obviously,
So the bar is not that high.
yeah, the bar's not that high. And I'm not familiar with the original Broadway musical, but the fact that this still sort of this wasn't a complete train wreck of a film and still sort of held up like on its own, it goes to show that it's probably a pretty good adaptation, especially compared to something like Dear Evan Hansen
Oh yeah.
or Mean Girls.
I'm
I
not
feel like
familiar with either of those original Broadway musicals, but the film adaptations, whoo,
Dear Evan Hansen is crazy work.
that one is
I-
horrendous.
Yeah.
I can't believe that happened.
I feel like we're spending a lot of time just shitting on other movie musicals with this.
It's like, I mean, it's better than a lot of the ones I've seen, but it doesn't mean that I enjoyed it. So it's like I'm at a weird point, a
Yeah.
place.
Like for me, I feel like I think the movie does a good job of making you think you enjoyed it more than you did. Because I feel like I have all these things to say that are like criticisms,
Mm,
but I'm still looking on this movie like fondly because of like that final number,
mm,
because of like how sort of like impactful that was for me at least. Because I feel like that's the songwriting there was great. The vocals were great. I think all the set pieces and the visuals were really great, and the sound design especially was very great. It did a good job at like making me feel sort of the emotion in that scene.
okay. Before we get into it, I'm just gonna say spoilers.
Oh, okay.
I think it's just because I don't enjoy this film, but it's one of those part one situations where I just feel like there has been nothing, or at least not enough, set up to make me interested in the rest of the story.
Mm.
And it's more like out of obligation that I would go watch part 2. Because by the end of this movie, she dons her famous Wicked Witch attire, and she's the Wicked Witch now.
Which is like the worst trope in like
Yeah.
prequels when they get their costume. Like it's we need to stop.
No, seriously.
I don't know. I guess for me, the only reason why I want to watch part 2 is to see if there's like any moments that like match up to like the ending of this movie. I feel like in part 2 we're just gonna get more of what we've been getting.
Yeah.
Like there's like I don't see like I feel like what a part 1 should do is show you the vision, and a part 2 should like sort of execute it. But I don't see the vision here, like where this story can go to make it something that's like really interesting.
Yeah, is it leading up to like an epic like battle or something, or is it leading to just more
It just
walking around
it doesn't
doing
tell
nothing?
enough story
Yeah.
to keep me interested.
No, like how did it go for 2 hours 40 minutes?
But dude, just that I don't know. And I don't know. I think this is just my least favorite trend that we see in movies right now. The whole in TV too, like the whole part 1, part 2 thing. Like
Yeah.
even in something like Spider-Verse, where that's like an incredible movie, like I just don't think it's right for movies to release a half-finished story. Like
Mm-hmm.
even if that half is good, even if that half is bad, it doesn't matter. Like I'm someone who wants the full thing immediately, and if you're not going to give that to me, you might as well just wait.
I agree, but I think just in terms of properties like Spider-Verse and Dune, there's just so much more substance and story that's at least given to you to like make you care by the end of it.
Okay,
even if they don't finish the story in a part 1.
But I feel like Dune is different because Dune to me feels like Dune 1 to me feels like a complete story, but with more story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like Spider-Verse, Squid Game, this movie, they all just kind of end. They all just kind of end.
Yeah.
Like I don't feel a resolution to anything.
This conversation is just gonna devolve into how we hate.
Dude, I'm
this
so
trope.
passionate about this
Yeah.
because I hate part 1, part 2 bullshit. Like to me, Dune part 1 and Dune part 2, it feels like going from like Harry Potter 1 to Harry Potter 2.
Mm.
Like it's a full story, but there's more story to tell with these characters.
I could sit here and plead my case with Spider-Verse, but we'd be here too long. How about I bring up something that I feel like no one is talking about?
What?
Removing what Wicked is as a property and just looking at it objectively. This is just like everything we've been seeing. Like it's a legacy prequel, kind of sequel.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't understand why this one gets like such a pass compared to the rest of them.
And it's an adaptation.
Exactly. Like this should be looked at in the same way that this new Mufasa movie is looked at, but just because it's a property that existed and is beloved, it's not.
You don't understand the power of theater kids, bro. They will die. They will ride or die for the things they love.
Dude, I respect the craft. I respect the art, but we're looking at the film adaptation itself.
I don't know. I mean, I guess with a story like Wicked, like when you have all these fantastical elements on a stage, I feel like there's I feel like there's a decent reason to want to have a movie version of it, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff you can't depict on the stage. Whereas something like The Lion King, it's like they're just animals.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could do that in animation, you could do that on the stage. Like I feel like there's no real elevation that's happening when you put that on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe that's why that movie is looked down upon more.
Wait, so how I want to ask you, how familiar are you with the Broadway musical and its like impact and what it's trying to do?
Wicked?
Yeah.
I'm honestly not that familiar with it. I just know that in South Park when they watch it, you get blowjobs. But
like at the theater.
No, you take your wife to see Wicked, and she likes the musical so much that she also gives you a blowjob.
I haven't seen that episode.
Okay, well, I just know that it has. You gotta watch that episode.
Okay.
I just know it had enough of an impact to be in South Park.
Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not familiar with like really. I know it's one of like it's one of the biggest musical. Like it
Mhm.
was like sort of the Hamilton of its time, where it was like a musical that sort of broke outside of like the theater world and
Mhm.
became like just a part of mainstream culture. I mean, this isn't really like Disney, but it's like it has Disney energy. But like how all those Disney movies are sort of we're getting like people of color casted as like white characters.
Mhm.
I just want to talk about how that's like it's not harmful that we're it's not harmful that we're casting people of color. I think it's harmful that we're not just making new characters
Mhm.
that are people of color. We're trying to like sort of like I don't understand why studios can't put the time and effort into making something new for people of color to look up to, like
Yeah.
kids new role models for kids instead of trying to like mold the old ones for a new generation, because I feel like that to me is like it feels sort of performative, and it feels like these studios would rather pour money into a PR campaign around diversity rather
Yeah.
than a PR campaign for a new property.
Yeah, it feels cheap. They're just using the love and like the recognition of properties like Wizard of Oz
To
to
get
build upon that instead of trying to like break through and make something new.
Yeah. I mean, no, I'm more just talking, this is kind of off topic. I'm more just talking about something like Snow White or like The Little Mermaid,
Yeah.
like stuff like that, where it's like, it's like performative diversity casting
Mhm.
when I'd much rather have with something new with people of color in lead roles. Because
Yeah.
I feel like that also fosters much less hate, which isn't like, I guess, the studio's fault, but when you cast like white characters as like an Asian woman or a black woman,
Mhm.
like you're gonna anger the crowd of people who get mad at that.
Yeah.
Like those kind of people. You're gonna anger those kind of people, which isn't the studio's fault, but it's also something that's easily avoidable.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like we're treading on thin water
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
in a lot of people's eyes.
No, I'm just okay. At the end of the day, I'm saying we should make new characters that are people of color. We shouldn't try to blend old characters into role models for minorities as a minority.
Yes.
Okay.
Also as a minority.
Yeah.
Preach, brother.
Okay. There's also one more thing I want to talk about with Wicked is Michelle Yeoh and Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah.
It's very funny to see them sing next to
Ooh.
Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, because I mean they're not horrible, but they're very obviously not professionals. And I feel like for a musical, this movie almost succeeds at casting very talented singers in roles that fit them. But when it comes to these two, I feel like they missed the mark because they're kind of only hired for their acting abilities, which I don't really see a lot of it being capitalized on anyways. But they're kind of only hired for their sort of star power and acting abilities rather
Their presence.
than their presence rather than being able to sing. Which I mean, they do a good job at like condensing their parts
Mhm.
into very brief scene sections, but it still takes you out a lot.
Yeah, I
Especially
think Michelle Yeoh for sure. Like she does a decent job, but I don't know. The more I keep seeing Jeff Goldblum,
Mhm.
the more I'm just pulled out of whatever I'm watching.
Yeah, it also doesn't help that he's like not singing very well.
No.
Especially when you hear Cynthia Erivo like belt out these crazy notes like 5 minutes before, and then you hear these two try to sing these very like basic melodic lines. It's kind of just like it kind of just feels like there was no point. Like there was enough star power in the cast. We have Ariana Grande as the one of the leads. Like we really didn't need to do this.
Yeah, this is a Jeff Goldblum case where he's shoved in there. And not to be a hater, but I feel like this has happened a lot recently.
Yeah.
Like with Marvel, he's in Thor, and very random, he's in Boss Baby. And just hearing his voice, already not a good movie.
Yeah.
But he's just phoning it in. And I feel like he kind of does that a lot.
Yeah.
Not to diss him, but
Yeah, no, not to diss these two. I feel like they did the best they could.
yeah.
It's more a casting mistake. And I feel like we talked about this last episode, but this is the same energy as like having celebrities instead of real voice actors
Mhm.
in an animated movie, or having AI do instead of visual artists do like that kind of job. Like it feels like we're kind of just like we're just getting people in these roles because it's easier.
Yeah.
It's easier to have a known person. But when you have, I think it's easier to have these people, but you're sacrificing better content
No, for sure.
at the end of the day. Like if we could get real singers, we wouldn't have this problem of feeling out of it when they're singing.
Yeah. I do want to mention an op I do have related to this movie, and that
Okay.
is the director himself, John M. Chu.
John M. Chu.
Nothing personal against him, like mad respect for what he's done for the Asian community
Yeah.
in filmmaking and just being such a prominent name in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
But he makes horse shit.
Okay. Wait, so what else has he made besides Wicked?
So I told you last night, Crazy Rich Asians
Uh-huh.
was like his huge breakthrough.
Yeah.
And I'm an Asian person, so I'm allowed to not like it.
Mm-hmm. I don't like that.
You don't like it either?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're allowed to.
Yeah.
And he did Now You See Me Too, which is, the magic movie with Jesse Eisenberg and Woody Harrelson.
Mm. That is quite the filmography.
Yeah, two of like the lamest blockbusters ever.
Yeah.
And those are like two examples of movies that are just like dying for people to think that they're cool.
Mm.
And they just like radiate that energy of like, oh, we're so cool and like epic and stylistic, but it's really just like so lame.
Yeah.
In terms of blockbusters. Yeah. Now You See Me Too, one of the worst in this past decade.
But hey.
And he did In the Heights. Do you know that one?
Yeah, that's Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah. Another funny guy. He is a very not good director in terms of big like action sequences and like set pieces. But I think Wicked was like his best work so far.
It's clear in the movie that he knows how to direct a musical movie.
Yeah.
Especially with how well he blends the songs are blended with the movie. And I think another thing is the audio mixing in this movie is very good. I heard that the songs were actually like performed live, which is crazy. And yeah, they did a very good job with the audio. I did not feel anything jarring, and I felt like I could understand what they were saying when they were singing.
Yeah, I've definitely, I think my view on him is just tainted by Now You See Me Too.
Yeah.
But he's definitely grown as a director. And there was just some visual set design things that I was impressed with. And like, yeah, it's very notable just how big scale of a production this is and for it to be.
And there's a lot of attention to detail too, which I can appreciate.
And I feel like those are some of the only things I can really give credit to and say that I genuinely enjoyed.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else you want to say about Wicked?
I don't have anything else really. That's my thoughts. I feel like I was much more negative than I thought I'd be. But I think overall I enjoyed this movie. It's not without its flaws and it's definitely too long, but I think overall I had a good experience.
I did not.
Okay.
But honestly, I think I enjoyed it more than I thought I would, which is crazy.
Same here.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's also because my expectations were so all over the place.
Yeah.
That I came out like it wasn't a complete piece of trash.
Yeah. I hated it less than I thought I would.
Yes.
Is then one of the nicest things I can say about it.
Yeah.
Are we hyped for Wicked for good?
Oh yeah. That's gonna be so good.
Maybe it'll all be worth it.
Yes. We'll see. It'll be like, you know how like Attack on Titan season 1 was like decent when you first watched it, but then you watch the rest of the show and then season 1's like really good. It's gonna be like that.
It'll make this part 1, part 2 split so worth it.
It'll change my mind and I will want everything to be part 1, part 2.
Yeah. Everything should be Wicked from now on.
Yes.
Okay, let's give ratings.
All right. I'll give Wicked a 6 out of 10.
Fire. I will give it a very generous 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Could go up maybe a little bit.
I think this is like the most we've disagreed on an episode so far. Like none of our ratings have been the same.
Oh, like entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for sure. That's
fire.
No more Wicked now. Like everyone who tells me to watch Wicked and talk about Wicked, no more. And we should leave this behind in 2024.
We are leaving Wicked in 2024.
Yeah, please.
We'll
At least
see.
until the next part comes out. I'm so sick of this
Yeah, dude.
as a discussion.
Dude, my For You page, like I never liked anything related to Wicked on my For You page, but then it would just appear constantly. Like, I don't know if it thinks it's like making me want to see it, but it's doing the opposite effect.
Yeah. And I'm glad I don't have to see promotion for this anymore. All right, moving on. We're going to be back in a second to talk about another notable release that came out at the end of 2024. And we're back for our last discussion. And today we're going to be talking about the new Robert Eggers film, Nosferatu.
Yes.
Yes.
Nosferatu.
Nosferatu.
All right, bro, stop. Your impression is so bad.
What? Okay, fine. This is his fourth feature film following The Northman from 2022. And this is like his reinterpretation of the famous Nosferatu Count Orlok story that is 100 years old now.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Movie's been around for a long time.
No, yeah, it's a piece of history.
Is the original movie based on a book as well?
I'm not entirely sure.
Regardless, it's funny how we're talking about another adaptation today.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, this is adaptation episode.
Yeah. But a better one.
Oh, much better.
Because I feel like the feelings I got when I watched this movie are probably what people felt when they watched the original back then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like, especially like an adaptation like this, definitely worth having been made, because a story like this feels elevated when we have the technology and we're able to do what we can do today in movies.
Yeah, and especially when we have a director like Eggers at the helm, because I think he's really solidified himself not only with this, but just as one of the modern day masters of like the horror kind of gothic genre.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Witch, but from everything else I've seen, he has not missed.
Yeah,
like, this man just does not know how to miss.
Yeah, I think with this one, he just continues to display his like dedication to like accurate dialect, and that's something that I feel we need in this space of like film,
because I feel like it gets people to turn their brains on when they're watching a movie.
No, for real.
And it which in turn makes it more engaging.
Yeah.
So yeah,
lots of respect for the audience when he doesn't force subtitles into his movie.
Yeah.
For even English dialogue.
Oh yeah.
That's really hard to interpret.
Yeah, I mean, Nosferatu himself is like, he's talking in a crazy voice and it's like very hard to understand, but I feel like it kind of draws, I feel the sort of like FNAF 4 effect where you're like, you're drawn in because you need to hear it, but then he's like scary too. So you're kind of like also like pulling back because you don't want to get like spooked, you know?
You just compare Nosferatu to FNAF 4.
Bro, I'm just saying, bro, like it has the same effect.
Okay, buddy.
Dude, it sounds crazy, but I have a very logical reasoning for the comparison.
Tell me later.
Okay.
Anyway.
I just told you it, but okay.
Expand on it later. Anyway. If I had to describe this new Nosferatu in one word, I think it would just be slick. Like, I think this is one of the most well put together horror films that's out there right now.
Yeah.
The sound design especially is amazing.
The camera work.
Yeah, camera work.
Crazy.
And just visual presentation is like so effortless. And I keep saying this, it's like you almost forget that the camera is even in place while you're experiencing it.
It kind of feels like you're in the world.
Yeah.
Like and I really like how good the cinematography is, because it makes this movie feel, this movie is scary, but it feels very beautiful at the same time. I feel like that just fits so well with this story.
Yeah. Shout out to the cinematographer, Jaron Blashk.
Okay.
I hope that's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, sounds right.
Yeah. Tried my hardest.
Apologies for butchering if he did.
Oopsie.
Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of just like presentation, like the lighting is one of the most beautiful parts of this movie. And I commend so much his dedication to shooting in like very dark atmospheres.
Yeah.
and like relying on natural lighting.
But this movie still feels very visible. Like
Mhm.
it feels like when things are concealed, it's very intentional and it's not drawing away from the experience.
Mhm.
I don't mean to go back to Wicked, but it's just something I noticed in Wicked. It felt like the movie was like darkened in post. I
Mhm.
don't know if it was the theater screen that we saw it, but I feel like sometimes it was hard to see. Like it was darkened.
Mhm.
And I feel like this movie is also very dark. I'm not saying that Wicked is dark. I just feel like there's an editing thing. But this movie is dark, but it's in a way that doesn't feel like, oh, I can't see it. It's in a way it's like, oh, like we're not supposed to see it.
Yeah, it's really fascinating that it's like a part of its identity. And people keep throwing this around, and I totally agree that shadows and the dark are essentially like the main character alongside um, Count Orlok and the
Yeah.
rest of the cast.
No, yeah. And I feel like the scene where Count Orlok is introduced is like probably my favorite use of darkness because he's so obscured, but you could just feel the presence because of his voice and because of the performance. Like you don't need to see his face because what you can't see is doing enough, basically.
Yeah, very good use of telling just enough and not showing fully.
Yeah.
It's the best way I can say. But yeah, that opening sequence I think is probably one of my favorite parts of the movie. And I didn't even realize until I saw an interview clip recently that it's from the opening frame of Lily Rose Depp to where you see his silhouette and she's floating is all one take.
I did not notice that either.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess that just goes to show how like slick this movie is because like the camera work is just so immerses you so hard that you don't notice things like that. But if it didn't do that, it wouldn't have the same effect.
Yeah, and I think the musical score is like a huge part of that atmosphere that's created because I really love the score here.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to find the composer. The composer Robin Corallan. Corallan? Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right too.
Great with names today.
This is his second feature. It looks like on Letterboxd. He worked with Eggers on The Northman. And now he's coming back, and that's crazy.
This guy is good.
That's like as notable as the jerk skin guy from Poor Things.
Bro, I still bump that soundtrack. Like some parts of it, like that is so good.
Do we have any more non-spoilery thoughts?
Oh, I guess like the performances in this movie is something we should talk about. I think they're all like across the board very good.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a single weak link here. I think everyone knew the vibe, basically.
Me and Joshua talked about this a lot before going in, but I think our only like slight precaution with the movie was how Lily Rose Depp was going to perform.
Yeah.
Just based on her last notable project, The Idol. I was scared going in, but I was very relieved and actually very impressed by Lily Rose Depp.
Honestly, like outside of Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok, I think she was my favorite performance. I think that she did a very good job at portraying this character in such a believable way and sort of showing a vulnerability, but also a very like supernatural presence to her character, even though she's still just a human.
Yeah. I think literally this film would not work as well if her performance like slacked.
Oh yeah. Cause she has to do some crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Like she has to like there's some like very out there moments with this character.
Yeah.
I think that she fully commits to it and that's what makes it work.
Yeah. My friend kind of coined this term, but he said it's not with this film. We were talking about something else. Anyway, he coined this kind of performance as crash out acting. And I totally agree because I think there's like a certain level of insanity that you have to reach to get this level of performance. And I feel like it's a very thin line that actors have to ride.
Because it's very easy for it to become like goofy.
Yeah.
It's always impressive when you don't feel embarrassed or you don't feel like laughing when someone is like going insane on screen. You feel sort of what they're feeling.
But I've seen that a lot of people can't take it seriously, which is like totally valid too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely not a movie for everyone.
No.
I mean, just like the nature of its story
Yeah, it was
itself, like makes it very hard to digest, I think, for most people. But also just like the way everything plays out. It's very, I don't even know how to describe it.
unconventional.
Yeah, it's very unconventional.
Yeah, this is definitely not for general horror audiences. It reminded me a lot of a movie like Possession in that realm of like psychosexual horror.
Mhm.
And Lily Rose Depp's performance reminded me of Isabelle Adjani from Possession, and also the Nosferatu remake from '79
Hmm.
she stars in, which I think is a cool link because I see a lot of similarities.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you something. One last thing about Lily Rose Depp. Do you know about Lily Rose Depp trench coat button to the top?
Yes, bro. I literally just learned about that this morning.
Oh, this morning?
I woke up and I saw a video on that. I was like, bro, this is one of the greatest. This is one of the greatest blocks of text I've ever read in my life.
One of the most, yeah, funny call outs and like disses.
Unhinged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's unrelated, but it's about Lily Rose Depp, and I think
Mhm.
it's really funny.
And I like that she also wore many things buttoned to the top in this movie. It feels like costume design just knew like what they had to do with her.
Yeah. The big headed bitch on the right. No hate at all to Lily Rose, but it's just funny that someone crashed out so hard.
No, dude, it honestly it should be a praise to be like crashed out on that hard.
Yeah.
You know? I feel
Golden,
like she kind of channeled that energy into this movie.
yeah. Golden final text. It says, I don't know if she was coked out or what.
Did she say like I don't know if I was coked?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I love that meme.
And for anyone unfamiliar, someone met 070 Shake, which is Lily Rose Depp's partner, and they were super.
Oh, they're dating?
Yeah, they're
I didn't
dating.
know that.
And they were super excited to meet them. And then Lily Rose Depp apparently was giving some silly vibes. Who knows if this was true or not, or if this person's just overreacting.
But that is
I
a
thought-
golden that post should be in a museum. Like that's golden.
It belongs in a museum. Yeah, moving on with other performances in this film, I want to point out that I feel like this is redemption for a lot of actors who I felt have been kind of done dirty with their projects, like especially Nicholas Hoult as the like secondary lead basically,
Yeah.
and Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Mm.
They're two great actors, and I feel like they finally got a chance to really shine here
Yeah.
after being done dirty with like superhero projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think it goes to show like Eggers' like vision
Mm-hmm.
because he saw something in these guys to play these characters. Because it takes a very specific kind of actor to be able to pull off roles like these where it's so based in like a historical time period.
Mm-hmm.
It's so based in like having to know the vibe
Yeah.
to pull it off. And I think, yeah, these two did a great job. I
Yeah.
think Nicholas Hoult was very, following him on his journey was very immersive. It felt, there was a certain point where you felt the exact same fear that he was feeling
Mm-hmm.
when he was at Count Orlok's palace or whatever
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah. I forget which discussion we kind of talked about this, but like more again with performances, there's like, especially with these kind of stories, there's a level of like understanding that performers kind of need to channel the energy. And I feel like it's very apparent when an actor or actress
I
isn't
think-
fully in touch with that.
Yeah, we
but
talked about this when we were talking about Dune 2.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of the actors here is a case of they are totally on the same page as Eggers and like see the vision.
And obviously, I mean, I don't even know if we have to say this, but like Bill Skarsgård and Willem Dafoe bring great performances here too. But they're obviously actors that are very comfortable in this kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
especially Bill Skarsgård as like a sort of creature, supernatural thing.
Oh,
Obviously,
yeah.
he's very comfortable in that kind of role. And then Willem Dafoe in these kind of movies, I mean, he's kind of just like built for it.
Yeah, he is a master at it. Like it's so seamless to him.
Yeah.
And yeah, Bill Skarsgård absolutely killed it. Like he
Dude,
is
like the voice is crazy.
Yeah. unrecognizable in every single like way.
I did not know when I was going to this movie, Justin asked if I knew who was playing Count Orlok, and I
Uh-huh.
did not know. And I came out of the movie, and I still did not know. It was until after I looked it up that it was Bill Skarsgård, which just shows how much he fell into the role and
Yeah.
how good the makeup department was at sort of creating a character. You know, like not making us even question whether this is an actor. Like what we're seeing on screen is Count Orlok.
Dude, I'm really jealous that you didn't know. Like, I wish I had that experience, and I kind of wish they didn't market him so heavily
Yeah.
as Orlok.
I definitely think he his performance too was like, I feel like knowing if I knew who he was before, I don't think that would have really impacted my experience though, because I feel like his performance had really no semblance of him in it.
Yeah.
That like, even if I knew it was Bill Skarsgård, I would still not even see even like a part of him in it.
No, it didn't like lessen the effect for me.
Mhm.
It's just like a cool little bit that I wish I didn't know before going in.
Yeah. And I want to shout out the sound mixing on his voice,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is masterfully done. I feel like that's such an important thing to making his presence very sort of strong. And I think they did it perfectly. It's subtle, but it's noticeable
Mm-hmm.
in how his voice is mixed to be bigger than everyone else's.
Yeah. There's so many technical just kind of touches that are like so effective, yeah, with his bassy voice and like just it over encompass, or sorry, not that's not the right word, or kind of like filling up the surrounding area.
Yeah.
There's this interesting editing choice that I saw the second time around where it's like in his castle there's kind of areas of the shots that are like out of focus,
Mm,
and it really like reflects like Thomas, the Nicholas Holt's character, like his kind of mindset
yeah.
in the castle, and I thought that was
That's very interesting
awesome.
because it's
Yeah.
kind of showing how he's so focused on what's in front of him that he can't really like see clearly
Yeah.
around him, his peripheral vision.
Yeah, and I guess spoilers from this point.
Okay.
This is a non-traditional horror story,
Mm-hmm.
and there's like a lot of supernatural forces taking place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it channels that idea where it's like, oh, is this like really happening, or is this like fully in reality?
Yeah.
Like touches like that help sell the effect.
It's interesting. I feel like you start the movie and things are happening, and the question starts as like, why are these things happening? But then the movie very quickly sort of tells you that that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
Like these things, you shouldn't be asking why these things are happening. You should just accept like these things are happening.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think the horror in this movie is done so well because of its use of jump scares.
Yeah.
Which is something I always think is very lazy in horror movies. I think jump scares are a very cheap way
Agreed.
to get not even a scare, to get a startle out of the audience. I feel like in this movie, it does something interesting where the buildups to the jump scares are so intense,
Mm-hmm.
and then the scare themselves actually match the intensity. Because I feel like in a lot of horror movies, jump scares are never as bad as you expect them to be.
Yeah.
I feel like in this movie, they are as bad, like visually, as you expect them to be. I feel like it set that precedent from the start. So I think from every moment onward, I felt sort of this like tension and this fear that like something like that is going to happen again. And it does happen again, just not as frequently as you'd think.
Yeah,
which I
and
think is all for the better.
most generic horror movies, you can kind of see a formula being built with each scare.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in all of his movies, Eggers does like an amazing job at like immediately throwing you into a certain mood
Mm-hmm.
or like tone, and where you'll constantly be on edge the entire you'll constantly be edging the entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so when the jump scares happen, like the work's already been done and it
Yeah.
feels like earned.
Yeah, and I feel like I think one scene in particular I want to talk about is the scene on the ship.
Yeah.
Where this guy is sort of goes down to the basement and he's checking on Count Orlok's sort of like box.
Yeah.
I guess you'd say, and you see him in the background, the shadows, so you know something's gonna happen to this guy. But knowing that information doesn't really take away from this guy dying, like Count Orlok killing this guy. It doesn't take away from that moment being like kind of terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's just something about how his presence in the movie is so constant
Yeah.
that like seeing him doesn't really change the effect of that scene.
Mm. That's interesting. I think the jump scare or like scare that did it for me was when he first kind of comes out of his coffin.
Mm-hmm.
When Nicholas Holt's character tries to like
Oh, dude,
put an
I
accident.
close my eyes during that scene, bro.
Yeah.
And I never do that in horror movies. I always like I have this like sort of pride when it comes to horror movies. That like, nah, I'm gonna be a man through it. But like that was one scene where I was like, nah, I just close my eyes for the scare. But
No, yeah, it's crazy because it's like you know it's coming, but it's just like it's like so overwhelming seeing his big old body come out of the coffin.
It's because Count Orlok was introduced so well.
Yeah.
He's so scary that like the idea of him jumping out is made to be very terrifying.
I didn't really think about it. Yeah, he's very like mild mannered in his introduction, and it doesn't seem like he would ever do something like scary.
Like it doesn't seem like he's the type of like monster to like scream, and, like jump out at you, but then he kind of does.
Oh, but wait, in the opening shot is a really good jump scare too, or the opening sequence where you get a glimpse of his face.
Yeah. But to me, I feel like that's different because it feels more like dreamy per se. So it's more of like a perception of him, not what he actually is.
Yeah. I mean, we've been talking about the entire segment, but yeah, the way he's built up feels so. It leads his actual like reveal and scenes that are like featuring him to feel earned and like satisfying.
Yeah, I feel like when he eventually dies at the end of this movie, I feel like that scene felt very emotional to me for some reason. And I think it's definitely the music and the way visually that he sort of shrivels up and dies. Like I feel like it's so like brutal and so like intense, but it also feels very beautiful and like it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like death in a way that humans perceive it. It feels more like death in a naturalistic way, in a way that death just happens in nature. It feels like that.
Yeah, that's an amazing shot where you see Lily Rose Depp's character. How am I forgetting names? Is it Ellen?
Ellen, yeah.
Yeah, Ellen and Count Orlok in bed, both dead. And there's like kind of like rose petals, or not rose, like flower petals and sunlight on their bodies.
And it's weird what this movie does to you emotionally because it's so dark, but like it's so beautiful at the same time.
Yeah.
So like even though like nothing really sad has happened, you feel kind of in that mood of like gloominess when the ending does happen.
Yeah, I feel like this is the most like connected a Robert Eggers narrative has felt. Like I feel like there's always like a level of detachment from each of his stories. Maybe not The Northman, but definitely from Witch and Lighthouse. And I kind of want to highlight more of the cinematography and like specific shots.
Yeah.
I think the shot where Nicholas Holt's character, oh my god, is it Thomas?
Yeah, Thomas.
Yeah, Thomas. He's on his way to Count Orlok's castle, and he's down this like long path.
Oh yeah,
and waiting for a horse carriage. And I think it's just like a beautiful shot using darkness very well.
Yeah, dude, that scene was so weird to me because I was so like entranced by how well the darkness was used, but also how well the light was used. You know, these little sort of pathways leading into this blue sort of lightness. I thought that was a very beautiful image, but at the same time, I didn't feel safe there, and I felt like something bad was going to happen. And I feel like that combination of feeling is something very unique to this movie.
Yeah.
Like you want to look at it because it's so beautiful, but you also want to look away because you're sort of uneasy. You feel a sort of tension that's you feel a tension that's not very direct. It's more something that's lingering in the back of your mind that like, oh, something might happen.
Yeah, and it's used especially well with, I think, every single shot of the castle, where it's very whimsical and like it's a spectacle to look at.
Yeah,
But at the same time, there's just like this unknowing fear that you feel.
because you know what's in there.
Yeah.
You know the boy's in there.
That boy. Orlok himself.
Yeah. Another shot I really liked was like the end of Thomas's sort of like, not really like dream sequence, but like I don't even know what to call it. The end of it where you see Orlok like completely naked, just on top of him, just like sucking on him. Like, I feel like that was so. It felt so disturbing to me because it was so explicit. And like, it was just showing this, and I feel like vampires are usually, when it's like biting on someone's neck, it's a very tame thing. But I feel like in that shot, it felt so like brutal without having to have any like blood or guts.
Mm-hmm. Oh, here's something I learned. Apparently, in like pop culture, we've changed vampire biting to be on the neck.
Oh, really?
And that, yeah, the biting in this movie, it's like on kind of like the chest or like shoulder
like
area,
the heart kind of thing. That was that.
Voice crack.
Jeez.
But yeah, it like brought it back to the original kind of way, which I think is super cool. And it
feels more fitting for the narrative.
Yeah. There's another interview clip I saw. It feels more personal because it's closer to the heart.
Yeah, because I feel like the neck is intimate, but like the chest is like even more intimate.
Little freaky boy.
Bro, that's another thing. This movie is very freaky.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sexual undertones.
There's freak energy to this movie,
which I think just sort of adds to the conflictedness you feel, because in the same way you're scared but also want to look at it, you're also scared but kind of like not turned on, but like you feel like the freaky energy, you know?
Yeah. I love when horror movies like utilize sex and like love in this kind of way. Lots of unhinged moments. I think I think we have to highlight our favorite moment is when Orlok brutally kills 2 children on screen.
Yeah. I mean, you don't see it, but I'm glad the movie.
You see a good amount. What do you mean? He rips into the second one.
Oh yeah, okay. Maybe I'm not remembering it as well. I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like when that happened though, like I didn't really process it because it felt like just so in character for like this movie and like this character. Like it just felt like it felt right.
No, it stands out to me, and I always highlight
when a film's willing to go there.
Yeah, these kind of moments, because I don't know. I don't see the point in telling horror movies if you're not gonna be willing to show this level of like brutality.
Yeah,
and if you're gonna be scared of showing moments like that.
And I think it also works to sort of represent him as like this objective force, where it's like it doesn't matter who you are. Like he's this disease that's gonna destroy everything until it's killed.
Basically. Yeah, and it's not just like a cheap kill moment.
Yeah,
like the characters, those children are established, and it works to build Aaron Taylor Johnson's character. Yeah, because you see him as like a family man,
and he loses his whole family.
Yeah, and that's really interesting to have that kind of character. Yeah, and like Joshua mentioned, the way that plagues and like rats are used in this movie is really interesting. Yeah, to coincide with Count Orlok.
Yeah, he feels like there's a certain point in the story where it kind of turns, and he's become this like disease that's infecting everyone. He's not just taking people individually. He's now sort of something that's a threat to many people at once. I feel like that was a very interesting turn I didn't expect, because it's very unclear like what he is supernaturally. Like it's sort of left up to interpretation. I feel like this added just another layer of depth to that. Like he's not just like a spirit or like a physical thing, but he's like, I keep saying disease, but I guess that's just like the perfect word. He's like a disease, a plague.
Yeah. And I feel like this specific storyline is very captured well through one shot that is one of my favorites, where you see like an overhead shot of the town and like a silhouette of his hand just
Oh yeah.
completely overshadows everything.
Yeah.
Just such a, I don't want to call it simple. It's like a basic kind of idea,
Mm.
but just the way it's executed is so powerful.
Yeah, and I feel like it really signifies like a turning point in
Yeah.
the story.
Yeah, and his dialogue accompanying, I can't remember the exact words,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just you feel the weight
He's
of
saying
what he's
some
trying to.
scary shit
Yeah,
in his accent.
I'm ready to freak all over this town. I don't know. Do you have other things you want to mention or say?
Honestly, not really. I feel like a lot of this movie just boils down to its visual mastery.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was the most compelling part of this movie.
Okay, I do have just a couple things I want to bring up. Yeah,
Mhm.
we have Willem Dafoe and Ralph Ineson from The Witch, who are they're fantastic. They're like Robert Eggers like alumni now,
Mm-hmm.
and I think Dafoe specifically has some of the best lines. He says, "I have seen things in this world that would make Isaac Newton crawl back into his mother's womb," as I think is an awesome line.
Yeah.
And he gets the title drop, which I think goes so hard.
I mean, he's the perfect
Yeah.
person to have the title drop. This is a title drop that went hard. Like Wicked was hella corny, but like this one went hard.
Just his voice, like just the shot of his lips.
Mm-hmm.
Nosferatu.
Yeah, I love how like the last time, well, not the last time, but one of the last times we see him, he like just completely loses it. Like when he's like burning down that like one building. That was very funny to me.
Now he has a lot of good. They're not quite monologue like lengths, but like extended dialogue sequences, and that reminded me of The Lighthouse. And I was just like, oh my god, he's got it.
I mean, Eggers definitely saw that in his old movie and like wanted more of it.
Yeah. I think that's something I wanted to bring up too. Like we were talking about this before we saw the movie, but just how prominent Willem Dafoe has been.
Oh yeah.
In I guess his entire career, but specifically the past like 2 decades.
Yeah, he's been working his ass off, to be honest.
Yeah.
It feels like in every like sort of like weirdo kind of movie, like he's in it.
Yeah.
And he does a great job.
And he has a crazy catalog.
Yeah. And bro's Green Goblin.
Dude, he's Green Goblin in Spider-Man. He's the husband in Antichrist.
Yeah.
He's Gil in Finding Nemo.
Which one's Gil?
The black and white striped fish with the sexy voice.
I don't remember that. It's his voice.
In the dentist office tank.
Okay. I think I know what you're talking about now.
It's a lot of people's sexual awakening, apparently.
Oh my god. All right.
Yeah. Moving on. I mean, it fits. This is a very sexual movie.
True.
Yeah.
So is Finding Nemo.
Yeah. For sure. How would this rank in your oh my god. In your Nosferatu catalog, your Robert Eggers catalog?
I would say this is a very firm second place.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely think Lighthouse is my favorite, and Northman's at the bottom. But The Northman's a great movie.
Yeah.
That's not to say that's bad at all. And I've not seen The Witch, but I definitely will check it out as soon as possible.
Yeah, I think Lighthouse is still my favorite for sure, but it comes in a very close second, and then followed by The Witch and then The Northman. But he hasn't missed. Like he's on a very great run right now.
Yeah. And I feel like he's one of those directors where it's hard to imagine him missing the mark.
Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah.
Have you heard of his next project that he's making?
I do not know what he's going to make. What is it?
So it's another remake of a classic 80s movie called Labyrinth.
I think I know Labyrinth.
Yeah, and do you know which musical star leads this movie?
Who's going to lead it?
Or leads the original?
Oh, who leads the original?
David Bowie.
David Bowie.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I do know this movie. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Jim Henson movie.
Uh-huh.
And it's a cult classic. So I'm interested to see. It does. I haven't seen it, but it's not a horror movie.
Yeah.
So that'll be very.
It'll be cool to see what he does with it.
Makes it a super dialect heavy movie.
I mean, Robert Eggers also is like very good at stuff outside of horror.
Yeah.
Like I think The Northman is like basically proof that this guy can do anything.
Yeah. And it's nice to see him. I'm pretty sure this is a medium budget film.
Mm-hmm.
But he's mentioned he's done with huge big budget movies because of how The Northman did.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sad, but
I mean, he doesn't really need the budget to make a masterpiece. So.
no, he doesn't, which is so much respect for him.
Yeah.
He's the GOAT.
He is the GOAT.
Okay, how about we give some ratings for this movie?
I'll be giving Nosferatu a 9 out of 10. Very, very good. Honestly, great to have something this good at the end of the year. Sort of end on a high note.
Yeah, it was very good last gift from Papa Eggers. I'd also give it a high 9 out of 10. I've seen it twice, and honestly, there's a very good chance it could move up to a 10.
Wow.
Yeah, one of my favorite movies from this past year.
Yeah. Same.
W.
I think this is both landed on both of our top 5 lists.
Yeah, it was both on our number 5 spot.
Yeah.
And I'm glad.
Honestly, I might move it up because I feel like it's definitely grown on me the more that I think about it. But I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I just wanted to mention, yeah, it's been a really good year for horror. Would you agree?
Yeah, like Smile 2.
Ah, you motherfucker. Not what I mean. I'm highlighting this, The Substance.
Oh, yeah.
I know you didn't see it, but TV Glow. I saw the TV Glow.
Mm-hmm.
It was great. And yeah, Long Legs was really popular, which I enjoyed as well.
Forgot about Long Legs. I feel like this movie is kind of like Long Legs. We have this like big imposing force that's like terrorizing everyone, but he's not really in it that much. I don't know. Or maybe there's another bad comparison.
What was your other one? The FNAF one?
What do you mean the FNAF one? Oh yeah, that's like FNAF 4. Because like in FNAF 4, you have to like listen for the sound, but if you listen wrong, then you get jump scared. It's kind of like this because you want to listen.
Always brings it back to Freddy's.
Bro, greatest horror game franchise ever made.
Okay, we're just,
on the record.
We're yapping at this point.
That's for the record.
Yeah, that was our discussion on Nosferatu.
Yes.
And Wicked.
And
I guess, I don't know, for 2024 films, maybe?
Yeah, I mean,
it's time to move forward.
We're in the new year now, so we might as well leave this behind us, but pretty good way to end it, you know?
Yeah. Overall good year.
Yeah.
For a film.
Yeah.
From this point forward, we're not going to ever make promises on stuff we're going to discuss.
Yeah, because we can't follow through.
Yeah. So you'll hear us again when you hear us again.
A silent voice never.
No, we'll do that at some point.
You just made a promise.
At some point. Okay. I'm not saying a specific time. Not next episode.
That should be episode 100.
That'd be funny. All right. Bye.
Bye.